Good morning, everyone. It's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. So today we're going to play around with some alternate ways to use this month's paper pumpkin kit. So the kit is called Mountain Majesties, and it has three different designs in it. So you can make three of each of the three different designs. So I'm going to show you how to cut up the supplies in this kit to create just a bunch of cards. I think I created, well, by the time we're done today, I think I'll have about 25, 26 cards. So you can really stretch your supplies by creating some alternate designs. So I have some fun little designs that I want to share with you today that feature this particular kit. So good morning. Good morning, everyone. Now, this is the stamp set. These are the images from the stamp set for this particular kit. And we're going to be using a variety of these images to obviously create our alternate designs. I'm going to show you the actual cards. So these are some of the alternates that I'm going to walk you through. So I'll walk you through each of those. But before we get started with those, I do like to put together just a couple of the, actually just one of each of the designs from the kit. So these are the basic designs from this particular kit. So they're very, simple designs. And I like to cut apart the card bases. So I actually just took the front of the card base and added it to my own card base. So that's how I created these three cards. So these are just the basic designs from the kit. Now the kit also comes with some coordinating envelopes. So you have these three different style envelopes, and I did cut up the envelopes and use them as pattern paper in some of the card making for today. So I'll show you how I did that. So there's 9 of those envelopes. And then I wanted to show you what the card base looks like, because I always tell you that I cut apart the card base, but I never kind of show you what it looks like. So this is what the card base, this is just one of the card bases that are in the kit. I don't know if I have any other one. Let me just check here. I think I cut up the other ones. So basically the card bases, they are front and back. They have a pattern on the front and the back. So what I like to do is just cut on this score line. So I don't fold my card bases, because if you fold on that score line, you're going to have a difficult time trying to cut it apart. It's going to fray and all kinds of stuff. So I like to just cut this right in half. So that'll give you 2 pieces, which are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then you can use those pieces in your alternate design card making. So for a lot of these cards, like this particular card, that's what I did. I simply just cut this apart here. And then for this piece, I just cut it apart in between these trees is where I tried to cut it apart, tried to do it that way. And so then I created this fun little design. So you can see that this particular card base is the front, or I'm sorry, this particular card uses the front of the card base. So does that make sense? You can see the pattern here. So I used the full 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, creating that card. So I'll show that to you. All right, so that is the card base. So what I'm going to do first is get organized here. Let me grab my stuff. I'm going to show you the first alternate design that I created with this particular kit. So when I create alternate designs, you have to provide your own card base, obviously, if you're going to cut up the card bases in the kit. So this is the first design that I put together. And basically what I did is I started with a piece of white cardstock for the base of the card. And then this is one of the pieces that came in this kit. So when you look at the original designs, there's a lot of different layers here. You just layer all these different pieces on here to create these cards. So there's vellum pieces, there's cardstock pieces, and you just layer them all together. And that's what gives it some depth and dimension. And so that's what this is. This was a layering piece that you were supposed to put on top of here, but I decided not to do that. I was supposed to put it on top of that card base, but I decided not to do that and just use it separately. So this is one of the pieces from the kit. And then the next thing I did is I actually cut apart an envelope. So one of the envelopes in the kit that coordinates, with this color here, I just cut this apart. And so this is a 4¼ by 3" piece. And so this is just going to go right in the background here. It made a nice kind of background on top. So let me glue this on if I can get my glue to come out. So that's why I like to cut apart the envelopes oftentimes, because you get some really good designs, good patterns from your envelopes. So I'll put that on there. And then I wanted to add a little moon behind here. So I couldn't find a circle shape. So I decided to use the modern oval, and I just cut it in half. So this is actually the oval shape cut in half. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. I'll add a little bit more. And then we're just going to line this up on top of there and push it down. And then I'm just going to pop this up. So this is a really easy way to use those pieces that come in the kit. So we're going to put some dimensionals on here. And I like to use my dimensionals to kind of hold down those extra pieces that I put on there. So we'll put one here, and here, and here. And you actually got a pretty big sheet of dimensionals in this particular kit too. So you have plenty to play with. All right, so we'll just add this on top. And this is the tricky part. And we'll put like that. And then the kit came with a Misty Moonlight Stampin' Spot. I'm just going to use my regular Misty Moonlight. And we'll just add the little birds in here. So there's just a little image that you can ink up, and then you can just stamp your little birds there. And that's all I did for this card. So it just gives it a really pretty look. And I didn't want to put a greeting on the front. I figured I'd put some kind of message on the inside. Haven't decided what I'll do yet, but I just liked how this looked on the front, so I didn't want to add a greeting. So that's the first alternate design. And then this next one, let's do this simple one here. This one, I decided the other card bases in the kit, I decided to just cut them up because I like to create kind of a window style design. So this is actually what the card base looks like when it's together. It's got all these different layers on it, these different patterns of color. So whenever you have like a busy pattern or a pattern that you want to kind of dress up a little bit, like this pattern was, for lack of a better word, this pattern was a little blah by itself. So I decided to just cut it up into 3 pieces and then just create this very simple design. So I'm going to move this out of the way for a second here. And I'll tell you what the measurements are. So I basically started with a 3" wide piece. So this is 3 inches wide. And then I cut a 1½ piece for the bottom. This is the 1½ piece for the top. So it's 1½ by 3. And then this middle piece is 2 inches. So I'm just going to adhere it to some black cardstock. And then I'll give you the measurements for the black cardstock. The black cardstock is 3¼ by 5½. And so basically all we're going to do is just adhere these. So I'm just going to layer these on here. I did something similar with that, what was it called? Beautiful Gallery Designer Series paper. If you guys saw my video on that. I did something similar with that paper because that's very busy paper. So I just kind of cut it up into little pieces and created a fun little design with the paper. So that's basically what I'm doing here. So we'll add this. And then we will just do some simple stamping on there. So let's start with our greeting. So I'm using Misty Moonlight for all of it. So we'll just add our greeting right in the center. And then we'll add some little birds kind of around it. And then there's another image in this set that has a big flock here of birds, and we'll just add that kind of down here. So I just wanted to kind of dress up the paper a little bit because, like I said, it was a little too simple for me. So I always have to make things complicated. I can't do just simple. All right, so then we'll just add this to a piece of Misty Moonlight cardstock. That's what I'm using for the card base. And then you can embellish it with anything you want. I just used those little pressed flower motifs. So we'll just add some of those kind of off to the side. So you can use this design with the front and the back of the different card bases that are in this kit. So you have lots of opportunity to use this particular design. Okay, so pretty simple. Let's move some of these out of the way here. All right, so then let's stick with that card base again. So that one that I just did, I think this was the back of this card base. So now we're going to use the front. The front has this circle shape up on the top and the back does not. So I used the back to create that card, and let's use the front to create this one. And so for this one, I gotta separate my pieces here. This one I decided to use that frame. Let me grab that. So this frame is from the Gallery Blooms bundle, and it's the frame that looks like this. So basically I just took this frame and I cut it out into, I should say, I cut it into the front of the card. So that's how I created these three pieces, was just using this particular frame. And so it's kind of similar to the last card, except for this time I'm creating a little depth and dimension, whereas with this card I just cut three separate pieces. This one I created three separate pieces, but it's a frame. So it's kind of similar, I guess. So what I want to do first, before I put this together, is I want to stamp some images on it. So I'm just going to leave it in the form that it is, and we are just going to stamp. Let's go right about there. So stamp those. So you want to stamp your images before you actually pop it up. And let's put a little birthday on here. And put happy birthday down on the bottom. And then we can put the card together. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Let's grab this. And we'll start with the outer one. So we'll put this one flat. And I'm just using Misty Moonlight cardstock for the base of the card. I'll just kind of put it off to the side a little bit. And then we're going to put this one over the top. So this one I'm actually going to pop up. So let's put some dimensionals on here. So I really like this frame idea because it's simple to do. and it just gives, you know, more depth and dimension to the card bases that come in the kit. So that's why I really like it. Whoop. So if you have that frame, you can create a lot of cards just with this design. I have too many things on my desk right now. Okay, so put this like this. And let's see if I can get it on there straight. That looks pretty good. All right, and then we're going to take this piece and we're just going to glue it in the center. So that way you're using all the pieces together and it just creates just a really fun little design. All right, so that is the design. And then I took some of these little embellishments and I just added them on the side over here. I'm all about that little button look, so that's what I did on the side. Just created some little buttons. All right, so that is that design. And then actually, when you cut out the frame, so when I cut out this frame from that 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of the card front, it left me with this little extra piece. So I just used this little extra piece with a piece of white cardstock here. Hopefully I trimmed it down. Trim it down to 5 1/4 inches because it'll be 5 1/2 inches. Trim it down to 5 1/4, and you can put it on the inside of your card. Although I'm going to trim this down a little bit more. Looks like I got just a little bit hanging off the side here. So any of your scrap pieces as you're creating, just use them on the inside to decorate the inside of the card. Okay, so that is the third design. Wow, we're on the third one already. They're quick and simple. All right, and then this other design that I'm going to walk you through is just a little fun fold, a simple fun fold card, but I kind of carried over the design. So you can see that I cut this so that part of it would be on the front and then the other part would be on the inside of the card. So for this one, what you're going to do is start with a regular cardstock piece. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit too much light here. So you start with a regular card base. So if you wanted to start with a 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and then just score it in the middle at 4 1/4 inches, then you're just going to cut off an inch off the front. That's all I did. This is just an inch off the front. But these pieces, I'll have to bring these pieces in to tone this down a little bit. So then these pieces come from the card base. So let me grab the card base so that you can see. So this is the front of the card base here. So I basically left it at the 5 1/2, and then I just cut it in between these trees. So you can see I just made a cut right up here in between these trees. And so this piece that I'm going to put on the front is 3 inches by 5 1/2. So let's put this on here right away. So this is 3 by 5 1/2. Let's make sure I know where my end is. And then this piece is going to go on the inside here. And I have to find my other piece. Here we go. So we're going to add this. So that was 3 by 5 1/2. And this one is, what is it? 1 1/4. So this is just going to go on the inside, but we're going to scoot it over a little bit so we get a little bit of that black showing like that. So it gives it kind of a fun layered look. And then you can just cut a piece of white cardstock, which this piece is 2 3/4 inches wide. And let's put this on the inside. Just gonna turn this. So that's a two, excuse me, a 2 3/4 by 5 1/2 is the white piece. And I got glue all over. And then this piece is 1 1/4 wide. So you use the entire card front to create this fun fold card. And then the rest of it, whatever I did with it, the rest of it I can't find. It's gone. It's gone off the table. All right, well, maybe I got it in my box here. Hang on a second. It's around here somewhere. But you get the idea. Maybe I'll just have to tell you the measurements because now I can't find my birthday greeting that I had like 2 minutes ago. So, well, once it's finished, it looks like this. So I just added a little birthday greeting. I'll tell you the measurements. So the birthday greeting is on about a 1 1/2 by 1 inch piece. Well, actually, it's about 1 1 5/8, maybe. You just stamp your little birthday greeting on, a little rectangular piece, and then add a little bit of black cardstock behind it. So the black cardstock is about 2 inches long and about 3/4 inches wide. So I just created that little greeting, but we can stamp these little birds on there. And I'll have to figure out what I did with my greeting. It's around here somewhere. All right, so that's basically what the design looks like. Uh, but yes, I do like the black. The black just really makes all of this stand out so nice. And just a simple fun fold, is a great way to just showcase the different layers, kind of create a layered look with this particular card base that's in the kit. All right, so let me bring these back. These are the three. Where did they go? Three. These are the four designs that I just walked you through. Very simple designs, but just a fun way to use the kit. But I'm going to show you some other designs too, because I created a total of 10. So these are the first four, and I'll just set those to the side so you guys can see these. And then this one is just another fun way to use that card base. And like I said, when I cut it apart, I tried to just cut it apart so that I was cutting in between the trees here. So this is the back of the card base. So I created the fun fold with the front, and then I created this kind of design with the back of this card base. So just a fun way to use it. And then this blue piece actually is one of the pieces from the kit. It's one of the vellum pieces from the kit that I just cut down to, I think it's 3 inches, 3 1/4. I just cut off the part of it so that it became a 3 1/4 inch wide piece. All right, so that's another design. Here is another one that I created. So in the kit, there were these little tree pieces, and I just felt that all of these pieces here, these little tree pieces, and where's this other piece? This piece, the tree piece, all of that is supposed to go over the top of this card base. And I just thought it took away from the design that's on the card base. So I separated everything, basically, is what I did. So I used these little tree pieces separately with just some of the other paper in the kit. This one you saw already. I'll move that one out of the way. Here I just cut that design from the card base. I just cut it differently. I cut it at, the 4 1/4 inch in length, just to shorten it and make a landscape style card. And what else do we got here? See, these are all the layering pieces. All these little pieces down on the bottom here are all layering pieces that came in the kit. So you can create different landscapes. So here's where I use the trees again. And here's another way that you can use that design. So instead of cutting three pieces like this, you can cut little 1.5 inch squares and create a fun little design in the center. And then this little piece here is just a leftover piece from one of the envelopes. So that's what that is. I don't think I'm going to get these all on. Let's move some of them down so you guys can kind of see. There we go. All right, what else do I got here? I showed you that one, and this one. I think this one's one of my favorites too. I haven't figured out if I'm going to put a greeting on it or not. I kind of like it like this, but you can split up your paper this way as well. So I just used, a very thin strip of that card base and then added some little pieces on the side, which I cut from an envelope. So this card base piece is 4 3/4 inches by 1 3/4 inches. That's the middle piece. So it's 1 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then these are each 3/4 inch wide pieces. So just kind of a fun way to break up the designs and just use this kit a little differently. So like I said, I'm going to try to get these in here. I created about 25 cards with this kit. So it really was a fun kit to play with. It was a little challenging. I do have to say, when I first started putting these cards together, it was a little challenging because the only extra image that you had in the kit were the birds, the flock birds. So I really had to use that card base, that one card base, this one card base right here. I had to use that to create. I cut it up into multiple pieces to create a lot of cards. But if you look at this card base and you cut it in half, and then you cut it in half again in between the trees, you'll have four. You'll have four different pieces. Let's see, which way do I go here? You'll have four different pieces that you can create cards with. So if there's 3 in the kit, you'll already have 12 different pieces. So you can create 12 different cards just with those card bases, not even counting the other card bases and the little trees and things that are in the kit. So there's lots of ways to play with this kit and create some alternate designs. And like I said, I love to create the alternate designs because it just stretches my kit. And plus, all my Paper Pumpkin subscribers receive one of these cards. I always send them a little sample card in the mail as a little thank you for subscribing. So I do have to create a lot of cards so that I can send everybody a card. So I hope you guys enjoyed these card ideas, and I hope they inspire you to just look at this kit a little bit differently, and cut apart the pieces and play with them and create a variety of different alternate designs. There's so many fun things that you can do with these kits. You don't have to stick with the designs that are in this particular kit. You can get creative and do your own thing, which is what I like to do. So if you guys, in the link, I think, in the description, I provided a link for you guys to go check out the next Paper Pumpkin kit. I don't have it off the top of my head. I can't think of what it is, but it's for the month of June. So you can go check that out. You have until June 10th to subscribe. I highly recommend subscribing because even if you don't like the kit, I'm sure there's ways that you and I can figure out how to use the kit differently. So you can go check that out. And I also provided a link to my new classes that I started because I like to create the alternate designs. I started creating alternate designs with Stampin' Up's kit collection. So this is their Paper Pumpkin subscription, but I'm also doing that with the kit collection. So you can go check out some of the alternate designs I've created with the different kits from Stampin' Up. So all right, you guys, I think that's all I wanted to tell you. So I hope you enjoyed these card ideas. And I hope you're inspired to get out your kit and play with it and create some fun little designs. I'll get all of these designs out on the blog for you later today, so you'll have all the measurements for all 10 of the alternate ideas, and you'll be able to create whichever ones you want. So I hope you have a good rest of your day and a great week, and I will see you guys all again next week. So take care, everybody.